from the top.
Welcome to Getting to Market, where your job is real, but the role is negotiable. See, it only takes me 2 tries. They
Yep.
call me 9 takes Nate, and it sometimes only takes me 2. Where your job is real, but the role is negotiable. This is kind of a podcast about folks in the product marketing, product management space, but sometimes we are fortunate enough to have a guest
Yep.
who can shed some light with some level of expertise that we do not have on things that we are not familiar with, which is always super exciting. So we are joined today by a friend of John's who I am just meeting for the first time, Jeni Asaba. Welcome, Jeni. How are you?
I am doing great. It is awesome to see John, always. Very nice to meet you, Nate. I'm happy to be here and see what unfolds over this conversation.
Thank you for joining us. And so talk to us a little bit about what you do where you are now.
Yeah, so I oversee community at Jamf, which means ultimately I am responsible for connecting the world's community of Apple enthusiasts together. We have a large online platform as well as an advocacy program and a number of other community programs that my team oversees at Jamf. But that's the day in, day out is how can I make the lives easier and the jobs easier of those who work in the Apple space. And it's always a challenge and it's always really exciting.
Now, if I had to guess, John, how you got to Jamf, it would be that you were looking for something to spread on your toast and you spelled it wrong. And
Yep.
somehow you ended up at that website.
Well, I got there a little bit by accident. How did you get to Jamf, Jeni? How did you learn about Jamf? Like, so we worked together. That's how we met. We worked together for 8 years, maybe even longer. And in that, we both had a bunch of different roles, but then
hmm
we got closer. Did we overlap at the Global Foundation? Okay. So we've done a bunch of different things at Global Foundation's a nonprofit arm of Jamf. So we did all kinds of stuff. I got to Jamf because I needed a job and Jamf was local to where I was and I knew a lot of the people. How did you get to Jamf? Like, what was your path into the business?
I was looking for a new job because I wasn't thrilled with my current job.
Hmm.
And unlike what I feel like the majority of the population at Jamf at the time, they all knew either Apple or somebody there. I didn't know anybody. And like you, Nate, I was like, what the heck is Jamf? How do you even say this? What do they do? I remember Googling, trying to figure it out to not a lot of success before my interview. But at the time, I was a copywriter and they happened to need a writer, and I had experience in healthcare, and they needed somebody in healthcare. It was a new market for us at the time. So they liked me enough to bring me in, and it's been nearly 10 years since then.
That's funny. I
Yeah.
I mean, like, there is the common theme we've talked about where people coming in like this is the standard career path of copy content writer to the community leader for the largest community of Mac admins on the planet. Typical. Well, that's what everybody would do. I can't remember the number when I left. How many people are using this site today? Like, how large is this community?
I mean, publicly, I would say 150,000
Yeah,
to give
yeah.
you like,
Yeah, non-zero. It's fun. So we met working together on the community. Like we were kind of in different roles. And then as we were building product, that's a part of why we wanted to talk with you today and just kind of get your view, hear how it's changed, that sort of thing. But a part of what product is, it's not just the core, software that the customers are buying day in and day out. This is like a Geoffrey Moore crossing the chasm type thing where every interaction they have, not just with the company, but with each other is the product. How much of that is driving what you're doing? Like, is that still true? Just kind of when people buy Jamf, their whole product experience is the community.
I mean, that's what we always hope for. That's the goal of my team is to help our customers feel as connected as possible. And if they ever thought about leaving, the thing that would draw them back in is the community because they're not going to
Hmm.
find that anywhere else. And that's just
Yeah.
not me saying it. It's our customers saying, I can't go over there because they don't have this.
Oh,
And
right.
that's special, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we always work towards.
Yeah.
I'm always curious, like how some of these things start. There's always like a business imperative, I feel like, to creating a community. But sometimes the flip side of it is like internally, there's always a need to get better. Like especially, it seems like Jamf is an adopter of their own software. Like you largely have a Mac estate for the employees. Was any element of it to like kind of serve a need internally for folks to get better at sort of how you guys were using it? internally?
Maybe a little bit, but more so it really started Jamf Nation, the community really started out of that connection nugget or seed, if you will, where we actually started with a listserv. So we had an
Yeah.
email that was just growing. Names kept growing, 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 growing. And very early on, John, in your early days, before when I even started, a couple of people said, connecting this many people on a growing email distribution list is probably not the most effective way to have our customers chat with each other and brainstorm and grow. So that's when we blossomed and Jamf Nation, the online community, actually started. So it started out an email distribution list, and it was really just like the foresight of those early Jamfs to say, let's create a better experience for people than all trying to have conversations through email.
And I think it was the only avenue for that conversation. Like this time frame was like, oh, 4 maybe. And so, it was shortly after Jamf started that the listserv started, and there just wasn't anything else to have that conversation. And so it's that kind of genesis of the product being part of the product, like of Jamf Nation being part of the product was there from the
Yeah.
get-go. How, like, when the change happened and when getting to the site, like, how did you start building the community itself? And almost like, how did you get over the tipping point of a number of users engaging with one another? Or maybe the other way to think about it is like, how do you, as you kind of build in a new thing, get a community around an idea, around a prospect? If someone's listening and wondering, how do I get a community going? How do they solve that initial user challenge?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's a little it's a little different now than it was then. So it really is it's a kind of case by case basis. Jamf Nation, I'm going to start by saying like I wasn't here when it started. So I've taken it over and I've helped, the team has worked really hard to grow it. But it all seeds back to the desire to connect with each other.
Mm.
So that's how Jamf Nation started. It continued to grow and grow and grow. It was really a support forum for folks. They had any question about Apple. And that's the other key thing. It's not talking about Jamf so much as it's talking about Apple management, and people to this day Google a question, it brings them to Jamf Nation because that's really where the library of resources is. So that just continued and it served as a support community for a number of years. We actually built it all in-house with our own team of engineers. And then that pivoted to gets to a point like anything does where it's big enough that like, oh, maybe we should let the professionals handle this who actually build community platforms.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first job, was moving off of our internal build to a community platform. And then we just this last July shifted to a new community platform. And that really talks about the evolution of how a community changes. As it grows, one way to have a community fail, so kind of the opposite of what you asked me about, John, is to not pay attention to what it needs and just keep doing what has been done because it's been successful. You do that, it'll fail. If you pay attention to your community and you pivot with the humans in it, it will continue to succeed, which is a huge challenge, but that's what we always look to do.
How
Yeah.
much do you think, because and I'll date myself a little bit here, but like is just kind of due to the sort of insular feeling community of what was then like Mac users? Because back when I did undergrad, like the university like laptop was a ThinkPad, and almost nobody had, like there were a few people I remember that had like Macs and MacBooks, but by and large it was like ThinkPads and IBMs. I think some people had Dells, and that like shift because I
Dude, you're
went
gonna
to when
tell.
I did when I went to grad school, I remember walking into the room and it was literally everyone, and this was back in the day where the Apple logo would light up, right? Like you walk in and just like Apple logos everywhere in the classroom. I mean, back when I was in school, we didn't even have Wi-Fi in all the classrooms, so like that was one difference. But so like everybody's got their laptops out, they're all MacBooks, and like that change happened in like 5 years or something like that. But there was probably a period where like that adoption to those folks who were trying to manage like larger deployments of MacBooks and stuff, they probably felt like it was the Wild West, like where they didn't have the tools. And so some of what maybe drove them to that community was like this organic happening of MacBooks becoming more popular with like students and professionals. And it was sort of the perfect storm that got created with Jamf having their solution that was available and folks trying to find those solutions. is some of that just kind of the organic timeline of Apple growing with popularity in terms of their MacBooks and who was using them?
I can't speak to the history of the MacBook and when that shift would have started, but I can tell you maybe John can. John, I think you're older than me. But
Ouch.
He looks older for
You
sure.
look older. Yeah.
now, maybe we're the same age. But as of right now, what you're talking about, this shift is dramatic. So we are seeing more and more organizations are offering employee choice. More and more employees are asking for a Mac. They are actually making some of their decisions of where they want to go to work based on the equipment that they'll get. So we've heard people in our own recruitment asking us right away, well, I would get a MacBook, right? Like that's a
Wow.
common question
Yeah.
that people are asking recruiters when they're going
Yeah.
to work somewhere, which didn't happen 10 years ago. This is becoming more and more and more popular. So obviously people need those solutions to manage. But going back to what you said, I mean, Jamf was built out of that need. Our founder started Jamf because he was an admin at University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, and he had to go around building by building, computer by computer, to update these devices. And he thought, as an intelligent college student, there's got to be intelligent or
Well,
lazy.
we'll say college student. We'll say college student.
College student, love you, Zach. He had to say, like, is there a better way to do this? And he developed a software to manage it. So, I mean, there you go.
There's an element of like, I do think that this is maybe the optimistic side of me, but there's always a community of people that you can engage and find that. So there's an element of what you're saying, Nate, of like, well, you just, not that you're saying this, but like, you just got lucky. Like, you just kind of rode the wave. And there's certainly an element of that, but it's not all of it, where I think there is a community of people that would find value in connecting and engaging and talking with one another no matter what. And so just like in any, there's a niche, there's a subset, there's a group that can't talk today that wants to talk and wants to, I mean, Jeni, you could talk about Jamf Heroes a little bit, but just like wants to show off what they learned, what they
Yeah.
did, what they accomplished, and that sort of thing.
Well, also the timing isn't like, I guess like where Jamf Nation is now in the community, it would be hard for a competitor to kind of stand up a new community. It would be competitive, right? Like there's an element to the timing and competition, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, we have the history. And we have, hundreds of thousands of pieces of content on our community that you can't create overnight because they're user generated. There's something behind that. But I wanted to touch on something you said too, John, which is really the human aspect and the connection aspect, that when it comes to starting a community, and people ask me a lot, how do I get started? I say, do you have customers? Yeah, we have customers. Well, then you have a community. You're just not, you're not connecting them yet. You just aren't organizing them. And people want now more than ever, and we're actually starting to see trends with AI and everything that is changing with technology. The people are striving for more human interaction because they feel like it's being stripped away in different places. So it feels to me very much right now like it did at the beginning of the pandemic, where we were going through a lot of world changes, lots of challenges going on. People are just overwhelmed and they're confused, and they feel like they're in their own silos, and they just want humanity around them. They want to connect with like-minded people. I am seeing that more and more and more. And that's where, when I was talking about earlier, community has to shift with the customer base, with your community base. This is one of those moments. If people are going out and creating communities thinking I'm going to have a support forum and that's it, it's not going to be successful. It's just not. That's not the community of the future. You have to connect on deeper, more diversified levels than that.
I think you are one of the better people I've ever seen do this and building community. That's why I'm excited to talk to you. And actually, one of the reasons I reached out is I was talking to somebody else in market, and they're like, hey, do you know Jeni Asaba? And I was like, yeah, why? Like, my goodness, I would love for her to work for me. So you have a reputation, a very positive one, and obviously proof in the pudding. You're really good at what you do. What aspects of a community, and maybe this is like as you're leading your team, it's not just a support forum. That's the negative. What are the positive things? You're like, this community, you have to have this, and this, or you're wasting your time. Maybe you wouldn't say it that way, but what are those items?
Kind of goes to the question of what do you hire for, is what I've been asked before. Like, when you're hiring a community manager, what qualities do you look for? Like, number one, I always look for soft skills above anything else because I can train the software. That's not hard. But I can't train somebody to be empathetic. I can't train them to be super creative. I can't train them to want to care about other people. Like those are harder things. You can try to infuse it and ignite a little bit of fire in people's bellies to care about others, but you kind of have it or you don't. Those are the things that I look for because at the end of the day, what we are doing is we are trying to make not the organizations, but the individuals who work for those organizations, help them achieve more success. And that looks different to everybody. And when I say, John, I'm going to help you achieve more success in your role, to you, that might be like, oh,
Good
you're going
luck.
to get me. What?
Good luck. I'm just kidding.
I'm going to connect you to the best resources, right? So you've got the library resources, so you have everything you need to do the thing. Whereas Nate might be like, oh, success to me means that I can have more fun in my job. You just want to have more fun while you're doing what you're doing, and then you're more successful because your brain is more relaxed and you're just having a good time. So it looks different to everybody. So you have to like pay attention and listen to the community members and watch how they're engaging. If you have an online platform, how are they engaging with it? Where are they going? What are they talking about? And then pay attention to how those change. Like I said, you can't just rest on your laurels at any given point in time. This worked last year, so it's going to work this year. That's not true. These are humans. Human behavior changes constantly. So you have to pay attention. You have to ask. You have to show up as a person. That's a whole nother topic. But
Do
yeah,
you mean 3D? Like you have to be physically there?
3D.
What do you mean? Sorry, that's an old jam phrase. When you say show up, do you mean you have to be there in person? Like you have to physically get together with the group?
I'm going to tell you one of the worst pieces of advice. Actually,
Love
it
it.
wasn't even advice. It was something that a previous manager told me that to this day I am shocked that they said. And they said, you need to take yourself out of the community and your team needs to come out of the community as a community manager. So basically, perfect example, we would send surprise and delight gifts. Maybe somebody had a new baby and we would secretly find out what the baby's name is. We'd put their name on a onesie. We'd send them a little package. We'd write a little card and we'd sign it and say it was from Jeni and team members' names. And I was told, you take off your names and you write the community team. That is one of the worst things you can do if you're running a community because people do not connect to a brand. They connect to the humans who work for that company. So you need to be a human within it, and that needs to function in different ways. Like, yes, physically show up where you can at user conferences, at meetups, at what have you, where your customers are. Yes, you want to show up, but you show up virtually. You show up in videos. You show up in your own commentary. You let them know who you are. My customers know how many kids I have. They know their ages. They've seen them before. They know that I drink tea all day long in my favorite Deneen pottery mug. Minnesota. They know a lot about me because that's how humans make connections. They don't make it through a community team. Terrible advice. So don't do that. Be a human, and then people will start to connect with you.
To what extent does the community have outlets that are completely unrelated to like the main subject matter for like off-topic kind of discussions?
Ooh, I like that. It depends. It depends on what part of the community you're talking about. So when I talk about building a successful community, it also comes with components. I like to say you have to have a menu of options because no one person is going to want the same thing. John, you're going to want something different from Nate, right? So like some
Definitely.
people will come to the community and they only want the answer to their problem and that's it. They don't want to deal with anything else.
Right.
Other people want to develop relationships. They want to have actual friendships with the other people who are doing their job at other organizations. Those folks are typically more engaged overall with your brand, with each other. So those come into a customer advocacy program. So I built and launched Jamf Heroes back in 2007. That program has been growing. That's where, when you talk about like who's talking about their kids, that's in the Heroes program. Who's sharing pictures of their dogs? Who's sharing, hey, I'm going to be at this user conference, who wants to meet up ahead of time or stick around afterwards? Those conversations are happening. They happen amongst the groups that want them. So again, like providing those options. Same thing at our user groups. We have both virtual and in-person user groups. And people go, some of them only talk strict Apple. Other ones, they go and they talk about life. right? Because that we're all human. We're not just
Mm.
doing our job and using the software. So it depends on where, but a successful community creates spaces where that can happen so people can engage the way they want to.
Yeah. If I was Apple and I was looking at this huge user, like very fanatical kind of user group, I would be like, I want to put ads there or whatever. I would like sell more stuff to them. Do you gatekeep sort of those folks away, or what is the are there other companies out there that kind of want to build those relationships with your community and kind of
Yeah, the short answer is of course. Like, do people want to capitalize on the Jamf Nation community? Of course they do. Of course. It is the most connected community in Apple device management. So yeah, they do. And we don't gate Jamf Nation. There are a number of community sites that put their stuff behind locked doors. You have to, enter all your stuff to get the thing. We don't do that because again, we want the community to be as successful as possible. That's
yeah.
my
How
job.
how long has John been banned and what did he get banned for?
Mm.
John
I
can go to Jam Nation right now if he wanted to.
I did look the other day. I still have my account still works. I don't know
There
what I
you
would
go.
do with it, but that should be fine. So that there's like an element of you have to prove that what you're doing is helpful for the business. Like you might say like, are we a cost center? Are we actually adding?
Hmm.
I, I've had to bite my tongue a little bit answering questions because I still care a lot about this idea and obviously like spent a lot of time in that product. So care a lot about the product too. But when people come to you and almost like justify your existence type of thing, do you have KPIs? Do you have metrics that you're looking at? Are they, financial metrics? Are they user metrics? Like, what are the ways that you justify what your team is doing to continue being able to do it?
Yeah, there's a couple different answers to that too. Because if you're talking general community, what are key metrics people look at? It's depends on the leader. Like
Mm.
honestly, there are some communities that only measure what their support deflection rate is. And they're like, well, our
Oh,
community is helping with support deflection this much, and that equates to this amount of dollars, which is a lot. Like
hmm.
your community is solving a ton of questions before they ever get to your support team. We don't measure that. I again have had John like you bounced around a lot. I think I'm on my eighth manager at Jamf, so I have had lots and lots of different KPIs over the years. Right now, one thing that we prove out is the very real thing that any community can prove out if they have something that's been established for even a short period of time, which is if you have folks in community they are going to be happier customers. And the way you
Mm.
can measure that is through a CSAT score, right? Through an NPS score. You can look at their renewal rates. They're typically higher. They're
Mm.
typically faster. Um, you can look at things like what are the extended opportunities that they are doing with the company. So if I have somebody
Oh,
in Jamf Nation, or even more so in an advocacy program within Heroes, that's exponentially higher are they helping the community through speaking at your events, through writing online reviews, through doing reference calls, which generate millions of dollars every year in new business? All of those things are things you can look at. Some are easier to prove out from an ROI standpoint, like a reference call versus, speaking at an event. But there was a time where I went to marketing and I asked them again back when I was on the marketing team, and I said, how much do you spend on finding a speaker? Like if you need a keynote speaker, what does it cost you? What does it cost you? What are you spending in marketing to get an online review? Like these are very real dollars that marketing teams can equate to. And then you can showcase what you have done from the community to say, well, this is what our spend is. And guess what? It's a lot lower because these folks are
yeah,
already feeling special. They're already
yeah,
feeling like they're an extension of your brand. So they're happy to do all those things on your behalf and you don't have to pay them for it.
right.
So it's just like this give and take. Show people that you care and they're going to show it back.
Yeah.
One thing, because I've been places where they've kind of what's like the nice way to say this, kind of divested away from their community side, um, and I feel like if you look out at kind of other folks doing it, some of why maybe companies have a difficult time, like I guess continuing to invest in it is they're not good at measuring it. Like, is that fair? Like, or they're not creative, I guess, and or not willing to be creative in terms of how they want to measure it in a way that might extend just beyond stuff that hits like their balance sheet. And there's probably like a we're okay not looking into that because we just want to try to cut costs. But I wonder, like,
Mhm.
how would you, like, if a community's been around for a long time, like support deflection, as you were talking about that, I was like, how would you measure that if the community's been around for a long time? Because you don't really have necessarily like an apples to apples comparison for companies that have been participating in the community maybe the entire time. So how would you measure? How do you get like clean sort of A/B like measurement against folks that are like participating and not participating in support deflection? How do communities track that?
Yeah, and I mean that can be tricky depending on all the tools. And again, like what leaders want to see, they can be very, very specific when it comes to what they're looking at. One thing that folks can do is say, how much does the support call cost me? Right? Like how much
Yeah.
and on average, like what is an average support call? And then you can take a look at what is an accepted solution or where somebody clearly accepted a solution within the community so they didn't have to make a support call. You can do these calculations with having a very young community. It doesn't have to be around a long time to be able to show that causation and correlation that comes with those very ROI specific metrics. Another thing that I was thinking of when you were talking is like advocacy programs. Those are hard to prove out too. A lot of people
Mm,
really get hit. If you're going to cut something, I feel like advocacy programs are even cut
Mm.
before community. One thing you can do there, and I did this recently, was take one customer in your advocacy program and you take a look at them and you track their journey with your organization. So I did this one customer join my program Camp Heroes at the very beginning. He's been with us now for about 8 years. And he started at XYZ role at his organization. He is now at XYZ role, which is much higher because he's climbed the ladder over that time.
mhm,
When he started, they had Jamf in one department. Now they have Jamf across their entire organization because he convinced them to instead of going with a competitor to go with Jamf. So their deal size is that much bigger. This
mm,
person has also completed our certification courses, which bring a ton of value and dollars revenue into Jamf. And then because he was so successful with his certification courses, he has coached others and given them the confidence to go out and pay for those certification courses.
wow.
He has also spoken at our user conference. He now leads a user group, which meets once a quarter at minimum. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one individual, and you can show the spider web of impact that he has had. That's what the power of a customer advocacy program, because they, again, they feel that value and they feel like they're an extension of your brand. So depending on how leadership wants to see value proven out, there are ways to do it. But yeah, sometimes to your point, Nate, you just have to be a little bit more creative and you have to actually know your customers too. Like I wouldn't have known
Yeah.
that about this particular customer had I not engaged with him for 8
Mm,
years and
mhm,
listened to him. So
mhm. That ties into like we're trying to help people get success in their job. Then you could just measure it and show it. I love that. So I want to give people something to like, hey, if they're listening, like, hey, I want to start my own community. I want to do this. I want to get going. Partly because I'm an idiot. Differentiate community from an advocacy program, and then just kind of what should someone start with? Should you start an advocacy program from community, and just kind of like, hey, if people are wanting to start, differentiate those two, and how do people start if they are that different?
yeah, well, like I already said, if you have customers, you have a community. You just need to connect them to each other. And if you have
Mm,
a community, it is more than likely that you have advocates. So you can then turn that into an advocacy program. So it really comes down to formalizing and what are you looking for? And that's how I view it. Not everybody in the industry views it the same way, but that is the way that we have found the most success. So if I feel like something's successful, I'm gonna, recommend it to other people. So the easiest way to start is to get your customers talking to each other.
hmm,
That's it. Because, like I said, you have customers, you have a community, you get them talking to each other. It is not fancy. It doesn't need to be hard. Everybody has Zoom or some sort of platform where they can connect customers. You jump on a call once a month and you talk about what's going on at the organization, what's going on in their personal lives. And again, bringing in the human, saying, what have you celebrated recently? It could be that they had a kid graduate college. Nothing to do with work at all. Like, let's celebrate the human. People feel emotions when they're talking about something that they're proud of or excited about. And that's what you need to infuse in community is like raw human emotion. Talk about that. You talk about any problems or questions that they have, like with your software, with your organization, and then they start to learn and grow together. And those conversations grow and grow and grow over time. It's really like that listserv that we were talking about where Jamf Nation started from. They were getting customers together. It was just in an email. We have something better than email now. They can get together on a Zoom and you start and then they'll start coming and they'll bring additional people and the conversations grow. And from there you can see who wants to do more, who's leaning in and saying, I want to be more
Sure.
of an extension of your brand. I want more behind the curtains. That's where your advocacy program blossoms out of.
Yeah, you identify those people and start, people do what they want to do when they want to do it, if they want to do it, and you'll see what they want to do, and then you can start building that.
You
I
just
love
have
it.
to give them the options. Just
Yeah.
create the options and let them come in and pay attention to what they're doing. Yeah.
You make it sound so simple for something that you're excellent at. You just give them choices and then people do it and you be better. Like, okay, Jeni, I'll try that. Thank you. Well, I really appreciate your time and getting the chance to chat with you. We end every podcast just in the idea of like kind of being curious, lessons learned, stuff that we have learned. So Nate, we can start with you. What have you learned this week? That'll buy you time, Jeni, to think about it because I can't remember if I warned you about this. Nate, what'd you learn this week?
Yeah. So, thank you, Jeni, for that. That was great. I learned a lot. My lesson
That's your
learned.
lesson? Never mind. I just learned
Could
it.
be that. I just learned it. I do have some follow-up questions. Maybe we should do a second episode on this. My lesson learned is, do you know, John, when AOL stopped doing dial-up service?
No, but this feels like a trick question, so it's more recent than I would have expected, is my guess.
September 30th. it's like 2 weeks
Like 3
ago.
weeks ago?
Yeah.
Holy cow. How many users did they have to, now I want to know the end of life messaging, like how many people do they have to say, hey, it's 2025?
I don't know how many users they had on dial-up. They have a decent customer base because they've still got folks who both use technical support and they have some identity theft services, which, wow, if I was getting like an AOL identity theft thing, I'd for sure think I was like hacked or something. But,
That's a patient hacker. They're waiting
yeah.
for dial-up speeds to get after them.
But apparently there are like 163, so this is probably not just AOL census data, 163,000 users, mostly in rural or remote areas, that don't have broadband internet access, and so they
Wow.
use dial-up. So it's like, a decent, kind of a surprising number, I guess, because it's still, But yeah, AOL, I mean, there's still people that up until September 30th were hearing the modem sounds.
That's weird to think about. Like, so we were talking about home phones not too long ago on the podcast and how we just got a home phone for our kids. And we did that by way of, just adding a phone to our phone plan. Like we called, the local ISP and asked how much it would be. It was $100 a month just for a phone, like a home phone. And so then like you think about like then adding a phone line to have one through our cell phone was $10. So not only were 163,000 people still using it, but they were paying maybe 10x the price of what they could have to have home speed, like home internet or home phone rather, just for habit.
Yep.
I don't even know. That's wild.
I am curious, like how many people, like one, how much did the UI change over time? Like did that just stop in like 2001 and then it just kind of looks largely the same? But then two, are there people that like up until September 30th would watch like You've Got Mail and be like, this is so real. Like this looks like.
This Tom Hanks guy's got something special. We should watch more from him.
Look how useful the mail feature is. Yeah, it's wild.
That's amazing. So I like the UI thing made me think about this. So this weekend we test drove an EV, which is kind of fun. And there was an interesting thing about it where, so they have one pedal driving, they call it. So instead of like, with a regular combustion engine, you take your foot off the brake and the idle speed will get the car going. On an electric vehicle, there is no idle speed. And so they made it so that you can actually, when you take your foot off the brake, it'll idle. which is totally unnecessary from the, from just how the car works, but they programmed that to do it extra. And so like, did the AOL people add that sound? Like, was it a comforting sound, that the dial-up sound? So even though they didn't necessarily need it, they just like put it in there just for fun.
Never thought that sound was comforting though, John. What?
I don't know. It's like nostalgic.
Nostalgic, but not comforting.
Okay, well, it's a little comforting. I'll challenge you on that. Jenny, did that give you enough time to think about something you learned? Or
I
you?
learned something really stupid. I'm glad my kids aren't here because that's a word we're not allowed to use in this house. But they've been saying 6-7. You've
Yep.
heard kids say this, the 6-7 thing. And I asked my older one, I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, I don't know. So finally, I just like looked it up. I'm like, what does this dumb thing mean? And it apparently means nothing. That's what I learned. The 6-7 really has no origin. It means nothing. It's just something that kids say to laugh and make their teachers very angry.
It seems like it's working.
Oh, for sure. It's super annoying, but
Well, so yeah, my oldest also came home like wondering. She wasn't using it. She was just wondering what people were meaning by it, like if it had some hidden meaning. But I was trying to think back if we had any things like that when I was little, like that didn't mean anything except to us. I don't think we did.
We did.
I mean, we had
we had to
slap
have.
bracelets, which were super cool.
That's true.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, still super cool. Yeah.
Jenny's now like, I'm much younger than these two idiots.
now I remember having a fake eraser in like second grade that you would write like a little note and you'd stick it in the eraser and then you'd like pass it, you pass it to
Oh.
Did you go to spy school and not like a normal elementary school?
Just that's how we passed notes back in the I don't even know if kids still pass notes. But anyway, I'd stick mine in an eraser.
Well, Jenny, really glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. Nate, you said follow up. For anyone listening, if you want to follow up, if you want to have more conversations, let us know on Substack. You can find us on Substack. We do this every week, every Tuesday. New episodes get to market, get released on YouTube as well. Jenny, always great to see you. Super glad we had a chance. I do feel like we need to follow up because there's a lot of stuff you said. I love the idea of like, you already have your community, you already have your advocacy program, and you're making it too hard. When you think about what do we need to do to start, you just go start a Discord server, start chatting with folks, tell them, be yourself, let them know. You're obviously excellent at it. So thanks for sharing. Thanks for spending the time. Nate, as always, good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, Jenny. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.